second installment for the subwoofer replacement on the Honda Civic Type R FL5. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. And this right here is the Bose subwoofer on the FL5 Type R for US domestic market. Okay, so it looks like there's a 10mm bolt right here, a 10mm bolt right here, a 10mm nut on the top right there, and then I need to go ahead and disconnect the wiring harness right there. All right, let me go ahead and remove the subwoofer and we'll take the next step. Okay, here's the Bose assembly from the Civic Type R FL5. So closer look at the subwoofer. You got a paper cone right here. You have a rubber surround. And then these bolts right here are not metric. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take a 1/4" socket right here. And I'm gonna undo these 6 bolts that are holding this thing in place. So let's go ahead and remove the factory subwoofer and see what we're working with. Okay, subwoofer is officially out of the FL5 enclosure finally. Now it is tricky getting this connector off, and let me show you what's going on with that. Actually, I had to consult with Jason because this connector is tough. But anyways, I'm not gonna plug this thing back in, but what you wanna do is not the side where you got this black tab, but on the opposite side. So on this side right here with the white tab, what you wanna do is you wanna go ahead and get a micro flathead screwdriver, and you want to stick it in between the outer casing and the connector. And then once that is inserted in there, I then carefully took my needle nose pliers and basically just pulled a little bit, and that connector popped right out. So this connector is in that speaker very tight, and you don't want to damage this thing. Okay, so that's what the connector looks like right here. And this right here is the Metro harness that Crutchfield gave me with this subwoofer. So I'm gonna go ahead, plug this thing in, make sure it works. And then we're definitely gonna have to trim off one connector because I don't know if you can see, one's a narrow connector and one's a wide connector. We need 2 wide connectors on this. Okay, I went ahead and plugged in the Metro wiring harness. This thing clicks in perfectly, doesn't damage the factory wires. So as we trace the white and green wire right there, that's actually on the side of this white wire. So keep in mind this white wire is gonna be the positive side of the subwoofer. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this black wire with the small connector. I'm gonna cut it off, and we're gonna put a normal size spade connector on this one right here. All right, let me go ahead and cut this off and put the right connector on, and then we'll go ahead and take the next step. All right, went ahead and made the modification to the Metro speaker harness, and on the black wire, went ahead and put a medium size spade connector on there. So this is good to go. Okay, so taking a closer look at the factory Bose subwoofer, as you can see right here on the perimeter at the opening, there's actually a rubber seal, so we're gonna go and replicate that same process on the R installation. Okay, so right here, we got some butyl rubber sealant tape. Let me show you what this stuff looks like. So here's a closer look right here. So this stuff is malleable, compact's very easy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this rubber butyl tape right here, and I'm gonna line this perimeter right here with this rubber butyl tape, and I'll make a nice tight seal right there. And another note is these screws, the factory screws will not work for the aftermarket subwoofer. Let me show you what's going on. So the head of these screws is very large. I'm gonna insert in the subwoofer and I'll show you. Okay, so the screw's inserted right there. And as you can see, it's stuck right there on that edge. So that's not gonna make proper contact with the bottom of the basket right there. So I went in my screw box and found these smaller screws. And once I insert in this hole right here, that makes a much better contact area right there. You still got some threads protruding out. And one more thing to note, none of these screw holes line up. So basically, once I get this subwoofer in position, I'm gonna have to take my drill, pre-drill the holes, and then drive the new screws in position. I mean, it kind of stinks, but it is what it is. Okay, those are the modifications to the factory Bose subwoofer box on the FL5. Let's go and get started on modifications. Okay, I want to go ahead and place some emphasis on the wiring of the subwoofer. Now, it can be confusing with how Honda does their positive and negatives, so let me go and start out in the trunk area and show you what's going on with the wire situation there. Okay, let me go ahead and apologize in advance. It's a little dark inside the trunk area, but I'm working in my garage. Anyways, this is the wiring harness that connects to the Bose subwoofer. And I don't know if you can see on the top portion of that wiring harness, you got a white wire. That white wire is actually positive according to Honda. And then right there on the bottom is red. The red is actually negative. So we're gonna follow the top and the bottom, top being positive, bottom being negative, and then let's go ahead and take a look at the subwoofer box and I'll show you guys what's going on. Okay, so taking a closer look at the wiring harness connector, top is positive, and that color is red and white. So red and white is positive, and on the bottom here, you got a green and white. So the green and white is negative. So according to the color combination on the subwoofer box itself, red and white is positive, and green and white is negative. So we're gonna go ahead and follow the colors down to the subwoofer. And then we got a custom speaker harness connector right here, so we don't have to cut any harness connectors off. All right, so looking at the red and white wire, that's positive. And then following that along the connector, that's actually black right there. So the black wire on this custom connector right here is gonna be positive. So following this black wire to the speaker, that's hooked up to the positive. You can see that red mark right there on the speaker itself, that's positive. And the white wire, part of the custom speaker harness connector, that is actually the green and white connector on the Bose subwoofer box. So that's the bottom. So right here on the bottom is green and white. That's negative. So tracing that wire being white, that goes onto a negative speaker terminal right there. And then as we actually bridge the speaker into a 1 ohm, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a speaker wire piece right here, and I'm going from the positive on this side and branch over to the positive on that side. And the same thing over here, you got the negative connector, and that branches over to the negative connector on the opposite side of the speaker. So basically we're bridging the speaker right there. All right, I want to go ahead and apologize in advance if this is actually confusing, but I just want to place special emphasis on positive and negative wiring on the speaker right here. So it can be confusing because we got a color code for the Honda body harness, and then we got color codes for the Bose box harness, and then for our custom speaker harness right there. So it can be confusing. Okay, so enough discussion about wiring color codes. I'm gonna go ahead and take the subwoofer, bolt it into the Bose box, connect it to the FL5 Type R, and then turn the stereo on and hopefully have success. Let's go ahead and take care of this. Okay, since we have the Bose subwoofer out of the FL5 Civic Type R, let's go ahead and test the ohms on the speaker. Let's go ahead and turn our multimeter on to the ohm setting. Okay, black probe is on, red probe is on. We are at 1.1 to 1.2 ohms. That's not too shabby how it compares to the Audio Frog 8-inch subwoofer. So just a little FYI, the Bose FL5 Type R subwoofer, ohmage is between 1.1 and 1.2 ohms. Okay, before I go ahead and show this next video clip, I want to go ahead and apologize in advance. I'm not sure how loud it's going to be on your computer or TV, so you might want to turn it down a little bit, but essentially what I want to do is illustrate the sound and the movement of the subwoofer in the OEM Bose box. Now, just keep in mind that this subwoofer is driven by the OEM Bose amplifier. There's been no upgrades to wires or amplifiers for that matter. So, this video will helps illustrate the movement of the subwoofer and the sound itself. So we got some copyright music, so let's go ahead, take a look at that video clip. Okay, for this next installment, I want to go and illustrate the radio settings that I use on the FL5 Type R OEM radio. There are going to be some variables involved, such as what volumes to listen to, what type of music, but these are my ideal settings. So just keep in mind, I think I've got it set so I can hear a little bit more of the bass, in the back area. So let's go ahead and I'll show you guys what I use for the settings on the FL5 Type R. Just lovely. It's snowing outside. Not a big fan of snow. I just can't wait till spring. Anyhow, let me go ahead and show you guys the audio settings I use on the FL5 Type R. I'm going to scroll over to the right hand side. General settings. I'm going to go sound. Okay, bass and treble. We'll start with that one. Okay, now for the treble setting, it's not on the highest notch. It's one less than that. Mid-range, that's dead center. And the same thing for bass on the treble. It's not on the highest, but one less from that. Okay, audio zones and balance fader. Okay, this is the important part right here if you want to hear more of your subwoofer. So I don't have it dead center, between front and rear. I have it one notch towards the back, so I can hear a little bit more of the subwoofer. So remember, this is all personal preference. If you want to hear more of your vocals, just put it dead center if you want to do that. But I think this is the ideal situation if you want to hear more of your subwoofer. Okay, Bose center point. I have that set to on. Bose dynamic speed compensation. Okay, the Bose dynamic speed compensation. I don't have this thing turned to off. It's basically on the lowest setting right now, which is right there. Okay, so this right here is the audio settings that I use on the FL5 Type R. And I think this is ideal if you want to hear a little bit more bass on your system. So, like I said before, this is all personal preference. So I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys what I use. Okay, here is a breakdown of the tools and materials I used. nor install the subwoofer and the Honda Civic Type R FL5. Got some speaker wire, spade harness connectors, optional rubber butyl surround, 10mm socket, 3/8 ratchet, small flathead screwdrivers, Phillips head screwdriver, wire strippers, 1/4" ratchet, impact driver, drill bits, wire cutters, razor blade, screws, number 8 by 1/2, Sharpie, and wire strippers. And this is the breakdown of the tools and materials I used in order to install the subwoofer and the Honda Civic Type R FL5. Alrighty, successful installation of the AudioFrog 8-inch subwoofer and the FL5 Type R. Now I want to go ahead and talk about a few points here. So the first point is selecting the right speaker. So whether it's a Toyota Camry or a Civic Type R FL5, you want to go ahead and pay attention to the ohms of the speaker you're purchasing versus what the stock stereo is. So for example, I'm pretty knowledgeable on Toyota trucks. So on the 4Runners and Tacomas, when you start getting the higher models, they have JBL offerings. In the JBL stereos, they run on 3 ohms. Most aftermarket car speakers are 4 ohms. So when folks are dropping in speakers on the JBL stereos and it doesn't sound right, basically that's just what happens. You know, you need to match up the ohms on a car stereo with the speakers you're buying. Okay, so the second point is the cost. The cost of this 8-inch AudioFrog subwoofer. Normal price on Crutchfield is $330, I believe. I bought this on open box special for about 300 bucks. So if you're lucky enough to find an open box special, I highly recommend doing so. I opened up the box. There was nothing wrong with the speaker. Couldn't even tell it was opened up. You know, it looked like it was mint condition, so I'm pretty happy. So that'll give you some cost savings right there if you can find some open box specials, because car audio products, they depreciate pretty heavy. So it's just a little tidbit on that. Okay, and discussion point number 3 is the actual sound result of the 8-inch AudioFrog versus the Bose 8-inch OEM subwoofer. So keep in mind, I don't have professional recording devices, so I can't give you an accurate measurement, but based on my eardrums and my listening, I'm going to go and estimate between 1.3 to 1.4 times more bass or low frequencies with the AudioFrog subwoofer versus the Bose 8-inch subwoofer that comes in the FL5. Okay, the final point I want to go and talk about is the positive and negative wires. First and foremost, I want to go ahead and give special thanks to a gentleman by Jason G on the Civic Type R groups. Basically, he's been walking me through this whole process. So essentially what's going on is the body harness, where it connects into the Bose box, into the subwoofer in the back trunk area. The wires are white and red. The white wire is positive and red is negative. So why Honda does that, I have no clue, but pay close attention when you're making the connection to your subwoofer when you're doing this installation. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this AudioFrog. I know it's not a drastic difference, but you know, I can appreciate good sound quality when listening to some good tunes on the radio and my Apple CarPlay. Anyhow, if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.